Ever find yourself wondering why certain stories just, well, grab you and stick with you long after you've heard them, while others just vanish?
Hmm.
Or maybe you've thought about how to make your ideas not just heard, but, really felt and remembered.
That is exactly the territory we're exploring today. We're doing a deep dive into the science behind why narratives can be so incredibly powerful.
Right.
And we're doing it through the lens of Will Storr's fantastic book, The Science of Storytelling.
Exactly. Think of this as like your fast track to understanding the why behind great storytelling. He's a journalist and novelist,
Right, quite experienced.
and he really gets into the neurological and psychological stuff that happens when a story truly clicks with us. He pulls from all sorts of fields: journalism, neuroscience, psychology.
Narrative theory, too.
Hmm.
It's quite comprehensive.
It really is. And he uses it all to show us what makes a compelling narrative actually work.
And what's great for anyone listening is that it's not just theory. There are really concrete takeaways here. Yeah. So whether you're prepping for a big presentation or just trying to get up to speed on something new, or maybe you're just curious, understanding these principles can genuinely make your communication way more effective.
So better communication, basically.
It's about getting that solid knowledge, but quickly, and hopefully having some of those real aha moments along the way.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive then, it's pretty straightforward. Let's pull out the key principles of effective storytelling from Storr's work.
And really understand why they hit home so hard.
Exactly, why they work. Okay, let's jump in. First, big idea. The brain itself is fundamentally a storyteller.
Yeah, this is foundational in the book. What's really fascinating is that our brains aren't just, passively recording things.
Hmm.
From the moment we wake up, they're actively building narratives, stories about who we are, what we think others are thinking, how the world works. It's this constant internal chatter,
Shaping our reality, basically.
pretty much shaping our perceptions, definitely.
And Storr makes this point, which I found interesting, that these stories we tell ourselves, they aren't always, strictly speaking, accurate reflections of reality,
Yeah,
right?
not at all. They can be quite flawed, actually.
Right.
But they still hold tremendous power over our behavior, our choices.
It's like we're all starring in our own little movie, maybe one with a slightly unreliable narrator.
That's a great way to put it. And if
Hmm.
you think about characters and stories we read or watch,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Every character, just like every real person, is operating from their own version of reality,
Yeah.
their own interpretation. And often, yeah, that interpretation is biased or incomplete.
Just think about how you make sense of your own day. It usually ends up being a kind of story you tell yourself, doesn't it? This happened, so then that happened, or I felt this way because. It's how we process everything.
That internal narration is key.
Okay, so that's the first principle. The second one Storr really emphasizes is that the main character, the hero, has to struggle with change. Significant change.
Right. This really gets to the heart of why some stories resonate so deeply. It's not about watching perfect people cruise through life.
No, that'd be boring.
Exactly.
Mm.
Compelling stories are all about transformation. The protagonist usually starts out with a specific set of beliefs, maybe a flaw, a certain worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And the story, the plot, fundamentally challenges that view.
And that struggle,
Mhm.
that's the core of it, isn't it? Because change is hard for anyone, real or fictional.
Absolutely vital.
Mm.
It's that internal conflict, the gap between who the character is and who they might become, that gets the audience really invested.
Yeah, you lean in.
You do.
Mm.
Think about the stories that have really stuck with you. Weren't the main characters almost always grappling with some major internal shift, or maybe a huge external challenge forcing an internal one?
Definitely. It's that journey, the obstacles, how they adapt,
Yeah.
or maybe how they don't adapt.
That's what keeps us hooked.
Okay, so moving to principle number 3, the classic show, don't tell. And the idea that emotion really drives engagement. This feels like old advice, but Storr digs into the why.
Well, what's interesting is how directly it connects to our brains. As, readers or listeners, we don't just want facts dumped on us. We
Right.
crave an emotional connection. Storr points out that good stories activate our empathy, our curiosity. So just saying the character was angry, well, okay,
Yeah, it's flat.
it's flat. But showing us their clenched fists, maybe their shallow breathing, the way their jaw is set,
Mhm.
that lets us feel the anger with them. It's visceral.
So much more powerful. You're not just getting information, you're almost like experiencing it.
Exactly. And that's what makes it memorable. As Storr says, great stories reveal truth through experience, not just through someone telling you the truth.
That makes total sense.
And if you connect that back to, say, your own communication goals,
Hmm.
Think about it. When you really want to connect with someone, isn't it way more effective to evoke a feeling, to create some kind of shared emotional space, rather than just listing data points?
Oh, absolutely. Like, trying to persuade someone, appealing to emotion often works better than just logic alone, doesn't it?
Often, yes. It bypasses the purely analytical part of the brain sometimes.
Okay. Principle 4 takes us even deeper inside the character, make it personal and psychological. Storr talks about this idea of a character's moral flaw, or maybe a limiting belief they carry.
Yeah, this is where stories gain real depth, I think. Emotional complexity. When you explore these internal contradictions, these hidden struggles, the audience forms a much stronger bond with the character's journey.
It's not just about what happens to them externally.
Right. It's about their internal world, their mind, their heart. Think about maybe a character who desperately wants control, but that very desire makes them lose it. That internal fight is captivating.
And it seems like that internal change is what really sticks with us, right? The external stuff might be exciting, but the stories we remember often show how those events force a character to face something deep inside themselves, maybe overcome it.
Precisely. And this raises a point for all of us, really. When you're trying to understand someone else, maybe at a work meeting or just in life,
Yeah.
what are the underlying beliefs or assumptions that might be driving their actions? You know,
Yeah.
how can you tap into those deeper psychological layers to connect better?
That's a really practical angle, which I guess leads us nicely to the fifth key principle. Truth is found in conflict. Conflict might sound negative, but in storytelling, it's essential.
Absolutely essential. What's key here is that conflict, whether it's a big external battle or a quiet internal struggle, is the engine. It's what drives the story forward.
The engine, I like that.
It reveals character under pressure. You see who people really are when things get tough. And of course, it creates the tension that keeps us glued to the page or screen.
And Storr has that great line, stories are engines of change. You can really see how conflict is the fuel for that engine, can't you?
Exactly. Without that friction, that challenge, there's no real movement, no catalyst for growth or transformation.
Yeah.
Think about times in your own life when you learned something important or grew significantly. Wasn't there usually some kind of challenge involved, some resistance you had to push through?
Almost always, yeah. Some kind of friction.
Conflict kind of forces us to confront things and
Yeah.
figure out our own truths.
Okay, so we've walked through these 5 big principles from Storr. Now, the really important part for our listeners. What are some concrete, actionable things they can take away and use, like right now?
Okay, yeah. Storr offers 3 really practical ones.
Yeah.
First, write flawed characters. Or maybe more broadly, when you communicate, present relatable, imperfect aspects.
Okay. Why flawed?
Well, people who seem perfect, or solutions that sound too good to be true, they often feel distant, even unbelievable.
Yeah.
We connect with vulnerability because we see it in ourselves and others.
Authenticity.
Exactly. So if you're explaining, say, a project plan, acknowledging potential hurdles up front can actually build more trust than just painting a perfect picture.
Right, that makes sense. Showing the seams almost. Okay, what's takeaway number 2?
Second, think in scenes. Instead of just summarizing information, try to focus on specific moments. Moments of change, key discoveries, emotional turning points.
Like little snapshots?
Kinda really try to immerse yourself and your audience in that moment. Don't just list facts, evoke the feeling, help them experience it.
So instead of saying the meeting was tense,
Yeah. You might describe the silence, maybe someone drumming their fingers, the lack of eye contact, show the tension.
got it. Really zoom in on those crucial moments that carry the weight. And the third strategy,
The third is to always be asking, what does this character believe and how is the situation, the story, going to challenge that belief?
back to the core beliefs.
Right. It's central to their journey. And you can apply this in your own life by thinking about the people you're talking to. What are their existing beliefs or perspectives? How might what you're sharing challenge their view? And how can you frame it so it resonates even if it causes a bit of cognitive friction?
Okay, so really understanding where the other person is coming from, those are super useful, very applicable takeaways.
Definitely. And as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, there's a quote from the book that just nails it, I think.
Yeah.
The brain did not evolve to help us tell stories. The brain evolved to help us survive. But stories are how it works.
Oh, wow. That hits hard, doesn't it? It really drives home that storytelling isn't just, I don't know, an optional extra for creatives.
Not at all.
It's fundamental to how our brains operate, how we understand the world, how we connect with each other. So whether you want to persuade someone or teach something or just be understood, These principles are always working under the surface.
Exactly. Storytelling is like a core human mechanism for processing information and connecting. It goes way beyond writing novels. It's a vital tool for anyone looking to make an impact.
So here's a final thought for everyone listening. As you go about your day, maybe start paying attention to the stories you're telling, both the ones you tell yourself internally
Mhm.
and the ones you tell others. How might understanding this underlying structure, these principles we talked about, actually change how you connect with the world around you?
Yeah, maybe actively look for those narrative patterns in your own experiences, in conversations, even in emails or presentations.
It could really open up a new way of seeing things, couldn't it? A new way of connecting.